Hello everyone, and welcome to another episode of Specifically About Quality, the Qualitywise podcast where we talk honestly about real quality challenges in the automotive supply chain. I'm Agata Lewkowska, expert in automotive quality management.
And I'm Christopher Scott, a specialist in quality assurance and operational excellence, also with deep roots in the automotive sector. As always, we're very happy to have you with us today. But before we start, a quick reminder that you can get the free episode summary and practical materials linked to this episode, and we invite you to our podcast newsletter. For every episode, we prepare a newsletter with additional materials, free resources, and practical downloads related to the topic, with access to all previous freebies from previous episodes. You can sign up directly on our website at Qualitywise, under resources, or with the link provided with our podcast episode description. Expect podcast newsletter every Thursday at 10 a.m. Central European Time.
And today's topic is one of those areas where we see a big gap between what companies say they do and what actually happens in practice. We're talking about strategic supplier development. This podcast episode actually is my appreciating of your entire professional experience, Chris, because you are an specialist with the supply chain management. So I believe this will be your really good topic to go through and share your best experience.
Yes, thanks, Agata. And for this topic, that often creates a lot of frustration in my experience, and I'm sure for many of our listeners that work within the supply chain management element, especially in supplier quality, it's quite a frustrating topic. But in general, the customers, the OEMs, feel that suppliers are not improving. They feel like they're under constant pressure by the customer, and quality teams feel stuck in the middle.
So, in this episode, we want to slow this down and really explain what strategic supplier development actually means. What is it not, and how to approach it in a way that truly works. So, Chris, what could be the main challenge here?
Well, Agata, when we work with our clients, I've noticed the same question comes back again and again. It's just phrased differently, and most of the people ask from our clients, is supplier development just more audits? Do we turn up and we just do an audit which is aligned to ISO 9001 and IATF 16949? Or do we need some sort of stricter scorecard to make suppliers improve?
Yes, and this is such an important question because it shows how supplier development is often misunderstood. And the honest answer is no. Supplier development is not about doing more things. For instance, audits and scorecards are just a tool, but they are not a strategy how to manage the suppliers and how to develop the suppliers.
And if we're honest, many companies use the term supply development when they really mean supplier monitoring. This is, scorecards, as we mentioned earlier. This is checking the supplier corrective action reports that are raised or, right first time in terms of reject rates that are received by the OEM. You check the KPIs, they send complaints, and they escalate where something goes wrong, which is reactive, not strategic.
Yes, and I think it would be more beneficial for our listeners if we will concentrate on this, what is strategic supplier development, and we need to say it straight. Strategic supplier development starts much earlier than in reacting to the nonconformities. It starts with a decision that certain suppliers are critical to your business and that improving their capability improves your own stability, quality, and performance. So today we answer the real question. Why should we invest time or even more time on some of our suppliers? And here, please bear in mind that there would be certain criteria for categorizing your critical suppliers. It may vary between different organizations and their businesses, but you should take into consideration such factors like maybe long lead time, suppliers which are having the monopoly on the market, no double sourcing. I know that double sourcing is questionable due to the savings. However, for some criticality, you may have a double sourcing. Even maybe the geographical localization, like your suppliers are in Asia and you are located in Europe, this might be also your trigger why the supplier should be called as a critical one. But let me also refer to IATF requirements, because in IATF requirements, you have also some requirements for the supplier quality management system event development. And definitely, I would emphasize here, just shortly, that one of your trigger how to decide if you should develop the supplier should be also the fact what QMS level maturity the supplier has. And let me remind you that ITF once was stating when it was issued in 2016 that you may work in automotive industry even with the suppliers who are not ISO 9001 certified. It was okay, yes? But now let's remember we have sanction interpretation which take it out. And now, of course, you always may have the customer decision, customer risk-based thinking, yes, if he really agrees that you may use non-ISO 9001 certified supplier. However, let's remember that in automotive, the aim is that the suppliers are developing toward achieving IATF third-party certification. Sometimes might be very difficult to take this decision for the suppliers because this is also a cost, also time-consuming activity with a lot of resources. And let's remember that we may talk now today even about small suppliers and big suppliers. So it's always to decide individually. So Chris, let's maybe talk about strategic and tactical approach because we started with the strategy, but let's remember that the work of the suppliers starts on the operational, tactical level. According to management science, tactical is the horizon about 1 year front. What can be said in this regard?
A tactical approach usually looks like this. The supplier has a quality issue, a complaint is raised like a SCAR or non-conformance, an audit is scheduled by the customer, corrective actions are requested, and then everyone moves on to the next fire. Firefighting is quite a big theme that we've mentioned a few times within our webinars as well as our podcast. But then 6 months later, the same issue repeats and it comes back and it reoccurs.
Oh, yes, exactly. Because nothing systemic changed. So now compare this with a strategic approach. In a strategic supplier development model, I would say that the relationship doesn't start with a problem, okay? It starts with understanding of the importance of the common business and the relationship, how the both sides can benefit from each other.
Exactly. And I remember a project where the customer had a recurring delivery issue from a key supplier. Everyone assumed it was a capacity problem, so they couldn't meet the run-out rate and their takt time was no good and they weren't achieving the targets. But when actually we sat down with the supplier and mapped their planning process, we discovered that the communication and change management were the actual root causes to the problem.
Mm-hmm. And that's such a good example, I would say, because no audit checklist would have revealed that.
Exactly. And no, it required conversation, transparency, and trust. You don't know this until you actually start digging deep. The surface level issues, again, the perceived causes could be the problem, but until you do the actual step-by-step check using PDCA or some sort of problem-solving method, you'll eventually find the true root cause, whichever one you prefer, as long as you get to the real root causes. And trust is a word that doesn't appear often enough in quality procedures, but is absolutely essential in supplier development. You build that rapport and that relationship with your suppliers as the OEM, or if you're the tier one for your tier ends. Without trust, suppliers will do the minimum required. With trust, they'll actually share the risks and weaknesses of their system and processes.
So let's start strategic supplier development in the way how to do it, okay? We'll maybe try to answer your next big question. Where do we even start with this topic, okay? So the first step is always supplier segmentation, I would say, yes. Not every supplier needs the same level of attention. And it's always the decision of the organization, even when you're doing regular supplier management, supplier monitoring in terms of QMS, you need to set up some criteria, yes? The supplier development may be another criteria set up for the list of the supplier with whom you would like to cooperate on a deeper level, I would say, yes? And trying to develop everyone at the same time is one of the fastest way to fail because you will consume your resources, yes? So that's why you need to pick up those with whom you would like to do the supplier development. Of course, in ITF, you may also find some mandatory inputs which shall be taken into consideration when you decide with which supplier you would like to start the development. And let me remind you that this is, for instance, performance issues, maybe second-party audit findings. So when you will go with your organization, your SQE is going to the supplier, maybe you will reveal their gaps and risks for you. So again, we're applying risk-based thinking here. A third-party quality management system certification status is also one of the trigger because, as I said already, in automotive industry, we are aiming to obtain third-party IATF certification. And as I said, general risk-based thinking not only revealed through the audits, but generally, according to your analysis, maybe your own methodology, then please pay attention that risk analysis will be always relevant to select the suppliers for this development. Okay? Chris, what would you add to this?
Well, I'd like to add that you need to identify which suppliers are critical from a business, quality, or risk perspective. Once you know that, the next step is understanding the supplier maturity. And I want to be very clear here. Maturity is not about how nice the documentation looks.
Oh, you are very tough, Chris. But we've both seen suppliers with beautiful procedures and very weak process discipline on the shop floor simply. Strategic development focuses on how processes actually work, not how they are described.
And one of the best practices that I've seen is joint assessments, not audits. Joint reviews where both sides openly discuss their strengths and gaps, and this is between the OEM and the supplier. Nissan's got a great sort of assessment. They use it as a supplier assessment called a supplier health check. It's really powerful. It gets both parties trained on the same requirements, which is above and beyond the IATF requirements, and it's specific to their group as a business. When you do an audit at a supplier, it's an improvement tool and it's done in partnership with the same aim to meet quality requirements. That's what we're always aiming to do. And as I mentioned, the Nissan example, in my experience, it was very powerful. You were on board, you understood where they were lacking in those gaps in those analysis, and they became better suppliers as a result. So this changes the dynamic completely. You're seen as a partnership, not just someone who makes the print, not someone who's basically off the shelf when you mass produce huge components. The supplier no longer feels judged by the OEM, and it's not a hostile relationship. They feel supported. So some practical implementation examples to go further. A very concrete example was that a tier 1 supplier that selected 5 strategic suppliers for a development program. And these are suppliers that they need because of either the location, as Agata mentioned, where it's far away, or they're monopoly type suppliers where you have no choice but to use them because they've got the intellectual property. And for this supplier specifically, each supplier is assigned a cross-functional team. So it's not just the quality person in the organization, it's not just the SQE or SQD person, but logistics, engineering, and purchasing were involved.
Oh, that really tells you something very important. Supplier development is not only quality topic. Yes, there might be different functions because when you are cooperating with the supplier, definitely quality of the receiving products is the key, but also let's remember that you want to have them also on time according to your production schedule, according to inbound logistics is planning, yes, the supplies. So you see, very easy example with this, what Chris said, a lot of functions can be involved in this.
And they started with workshops instead of audits. A workshop is a very different term. An audit puts the fear into most people because they think, oh, if we don't survive the audit, and survive is the word, then they lose their accreditation or the customer's unhappy and they desource. The most important thing is aligning on expectations, clarify what good really means and agree on the priorities.
And the key word here, what I will emphasize, Chris, what you've said is agreed, not imposed.
Yes. Over time, they introduced targeted audits, coaching sessions, and regular reviews. The result was fewer escalations, smoother launches, and much better communication.
And what I really like about this example is that the customer invests time upfront, but saved the time later by not constantly do firefighting. But let me tell you something very personal. I always was in doubt when I was auditing and I need to verify how the audit organizations are performing supplier development. Why I had this doubt? Because in the organization, the main business goal is to produce and to sell to your customer. And suddenly you need to find some resources to do another operational activity, which is connected to the supplier development. So this is your time, your money, your people. But in fact, this firefighting aspect is actually your prevention, yes? So I changed after some time this mindset, this doubt were fading because I knew that this might be very beneficial for us, proactively working with the suppliers, and especially when we are talking about these critical suppliers. So they're quite important to us, yes? We don't want later to run a contingency plan in terms of the staff of the supplies. think about the supplier development according to your QMS activities as something very important. And sometimes, especially for a smaller organization, it might be very difficult because of the resources. Sometimes it's very overloading for SQE to work on the daily basis with the suppliers, but now they need to be involved in some bigger projects because supplier development, let's be honest, they are not fast actions. Okay, this is time consuming and mostly it may take really a longer time.
Yes, and we also need to talk about what doesn't work, and sometimes this is uncomfortable for suppliers and OEMs. They don't want to hear the reality.
One of the biggest mistake, I think, is treating supplier development as punishment. I'm sorry for using this word. If development activities only start after an escalation, suppliers will always be defensive.
Exactly, and I've experienced this firsthand as an SQE throughout my career, as well as becoming into senior management, is that suppliers tend to feel like it is a punishment and that the OEM is just dissatisfied. But 9 times out of 10, I would say that's because the expectations are not aligned at the beginning of the project. You get a great deal, a great price, but then the supplier doesn't realize all of the things they must do to meet the supplier quality requirements and to achieve good, satisfactory quality. Another mistake is expecting improvement without investing in the resources I've just mentioned. You need to invest resources, skilled resources, competent resources, not just bums on seats, to use the phrase. You cannot ask suppliers to change if they're not willing to support the change.
And finally, I would add lack of management involvement. Without leadership support, supplier development becomes just another quality initiative that slowly fades away. Strategic supplier development is, in fact, a leadership decision. Why? Because this is about resource allocation, so this is money. And of course, who is in charge of taking such decision? Leadership. So let's talk about the value, because at the end of the day, companies ask, what do we get out of this? Chris, can you try to answer this question?
Well, to be straight to the point, you get stability. And in the world of IETF and ISO 9001, we want stable processes. Ultimately, we want a stable product, which is not varying and not causing lots of issues. We get fewer surprises. We're not shocked when something goes wrong. We can predict if there's something is going to go wrong. And you get a better launch, a better SOP or job one, and stronger relationships.
And in times of crisis, those relationships matter more than any procedures, because suppliers are much more willing to cooperate when they feel treated as partners, not just sources of risk.
To wrap this up, strategic supply development is not about control. It's about capability, trust, and long-term thinking. If you want to go deeper, don't forget to subscribe to our podcast newsletter to get strategic supply development from audits to real partnerships, a podcast companion guide. You can sign up directly on our website at Qualitywise under resources or with the link provided with our podcast episode in the description. Our subscriber may expect a podcast newsletter every Thursday at 10 a.m. Central European Time.
And if supplier issues keep coming back in your organization, Qualitywise supports companies with supplier assessments, development programs, joint workshops, and long-term improvement roadmaps. Book a free consultation with us on our website to learn about cooperation possibilities.